making headlines. The president extends felicitations to the leaders of Libya on the occasion of its Independence Day. The foreign minister states that Russia's appointment of a consul general to the Maldives is a remarkable diplomatic development. And the foreign minister underscores the importance of appointing honorary consuls to foster closer bilateral relations.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to PSM News in English. I'm Udma Mahmood, your host for the afternoon. Looking into the details, President Dr. Mohamed Moise extends felicitations to Mohamed Yunus Amenfi, the President of the Presidential Council of the State of Libya, and Abdul Hamid M.A. Al-Tabiba, Prime Minister of the Government of National Unity of the State of Libya, on the occasion of its Independence Day. In his messages, the President conveyed greetings and good wishes from the government and people of the Maldives to the leadership and brotherly people of Libya. He further expressed his best wishes for the good health and well-being of the President and Prime Minister, as well as for the peace, prosperity and progress of the Libyan people. Libya's Independence Day is celebrated annually on December 24th. The Maldives and Libya established diplomatic relations on 17th November 1975. Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdullah Halil states that Russia's appointment of a consul general to the Maldives is a notable and significant diplomatic development. The announcement was made during a formal meeting wherein the newly appointed Russian Consul General Alexei M. Idamkin presented his consular commission letter to Minister Halil. Russia has become the first nation to appoint a Consul General to the Maldives.
Minister Halil described the appointment of a Russian Consul General to the Maldives as a notable and significant diplomatic development. Russia has become the first nation to appoint a Consul General to the Maldives. The announcement was made during a formal meeting wherein the newly appointed Russian Consul General Alexei M. Idamkin presented his consular commission letter to Minister Halil. During this ceremony, Minister Halil congratulated the Consul General on his appointment and extended his best wishes for a successful tenure. Citing the importance of this appointment, Minister Halil highlighted that Russia's decision to establish this consular presence underscores the robust ties between the two nations. He stated that the appointment of a Consul General will enhance consular services, offering greater support for Russia's nationals visiting, residing, or investing in the Maldives. Welcoming the Consul General's appointment with enthusiasm, Minister Halil highlighted the pivotal role Russia plays as the second largest source market for tourists to the Maldives. He further added that this development would bolster the existing relationship and open new avenues for collaboration. Speaking at the meeting, Consul General Idamkin expressed his gratitude to the foreign minister and affirmed his commitment to ensuring efficient consular services for Russians in the Maldives. He also underscored his intention to promote economic partnerships, further strengthening the bilateral ties between Russia and the Maldives.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdullah Halil underscores the importance of appointing honorary consuls to foster closer bilateral relations and enhancing people-to-people contact between the Maldives and their appointing countries.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdullah Halil says that the role of honorary consuls in fostering closer relations and enhancing people-to-people contact between the Maldives and their appointing countries is critical. This statement was made during the presentation of the exequatur to the newly appointed Honorary Consul of Malaysia, Raghib Ahmad Khalaf. The meeting, which took place at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, saw Minister Halil highlighting the significance of honorary consuls in overseeing consular services and promoting bilateral ties. The minister stated that these officials play a pivotal role in supporting the citizens of their appointing countries, thereby strengthening diplomatic and economic relations. Honorary consuls appointed by the governments of their respective countries are responsible for providing consular and other essential services to their nationals in the host country. Minister Halil's remarks at the ceremony reiterated the importance of these roles in enhancing the Maldives' international connections. Following the presentation of the exequatur, Honorary Consul Halaf will commence his duties as the Honorary Consul of Malaysia in the Maldives.
Minister of Islamic Affairs Dr. Muhammad Shahim Ali Saeed warns strict penalties against Umrah travel companies that violate the set rules and regulations governing Umrah tours. This warning follows the ministry's recent launch of a service earlier this year that permits companies to apply for Umrah tour licenses year-round. In a social media post, Minister Shahim stated that action would be taken against companies that breach the regulations published in the Government Gazette. He added that action will also be taken against companies that breach their licensing agreements with the ministry. This includes companies failing to adhere to the agreement terms or other governing rules. Citing instances of regulatory breaches, Minister Shahim highlighted that penalties would be enforced on companies violating Section 19 of the Umrah Tour regulations. He affirmed that the ministry would take all necessary measures to protect the rights of Umrah pilgrims. These warnings follow past incidents involving Umrah tour operators who defrauded pilgrims, including the misappropriation of funds paid for organizing the pilgrimage. The ministry reported cases where companies charged additional fees and caused delays and difficulties for pilgrims returning home from Saudi Arabia. According to the agreement with Umrah tour operators, the ministry can impose fines ranging from approximately $64 to $6,485 for violations, depending on their severity. Unauthorized companies arranging Umrah pilgrimages can face fines between $6,485 and $32,428. The ministry also retains the authority to cancel the licenses of violators. In instances involving criminal activities such as fraud, the ministry is authorized to request an investigation by the Maldives Police Service MPS. Civil offences may be referred to the Attorney General's office. At present, the ministry has issued licenses to 50 Umrah tour operators. Statistical data show an increasing number of pilgrims embarking on the Umrah pilgrimage, especially during school holidays and the holy month of Ramadan. This December alone, over 5,000 pilgrims from the Maldives have journeyed to Saudi Arabia for Umrah. State Minister of Higher Education, Labour and Skills Development Ahmad Shafri reveals that the National Research Fund has been established with an initial allocation of approximately $648,508. The National Research Fund is designed to foster research and cultivate an environment that supports scholarly pursuits across the country. In a statement made during a program of PSM News, State Minister Shafri announced the establishment of the National Research Fund, which will be managed by the newly formulated National Research Council. The Higher Education Ministry is currently identifying key areas and fields of research and formulating guidelines to govern the utilization of finances from the fund. These efforts would be carried out with utmost transparency. Members of the National Research Council who have already been appointed will oversee the management of the National Research Fund. Their mandate encompasses identifying research areas, establishing and executing guidelines for research grants, and determining the grant amounts. The Council's responsibilities also encompasses developing higher education strategies based on contemporary science and research, authorizing and counseling authorities on research, and fostering the development of skilled researchers in the country. The Council will also set standards to assess research conducted in the Maldives. It will also assist students, educators, scientists, and researchers in conducting relevant research and will have the authority to establish standards for strengthening higher education and training practices in the Maldives. Former President Mohammad Nasheed alleges major injustice and unfair advantages in the housing list of the previous administration's housing scheme, Bimveria, but expressed hope this administration would right the wrongs. In a post on social media, Nasheed reiterated his allegations that several people had been unjustly included in the list to provide land plots from the reclaimed suburb Hulumale by the previous administration. Nasheed said the recent scandal of allocating land plots from Hulumale under the guise of the Bimvaria scheme to people not on the original list only compounded the injustice. He also noted the unprecedented police investigation and the dismissal of several high-ranking officials of the Housing Development Corporation (HDC) at the center of the scandal, expressing hope that the relevant authorities would conduct a comprehensive investigation. Nasheed's comments came after incumbent President Dr. Mohammad Muiz reiterated his unwavering commitment to weeding out government corruption. Last week, HDC came under heavy scrutiny after it emerged that land plots had been issued to non-recipients under the Bimvaria scheme. In response, the entire HDC board, except for its chairperson, was suspended along with the corporation's managing director, Fazul. The National Disaster Management Authority (NDMA) reports that assessments have been conducted on 57 households that were affected by last week's heavy rains.
The NDMA has reported that assessments have been conducted on 57 households that were affected by last week's heavy rains. NDMA said that the Maldives National Defense Force (MNDF), the Maldives Police Service (MPS), and the Maldives Red Crescent (MRC) received a total of 98 calls to their hotlines by those impacted by the flooding in Male City last Saturday. Of these, 70 calls were requests for sandbags to block flooding, 21 calls were damage reports, and 7 were calls asking for emergency assistance to meet basic needs. The authority said it conducted rapid assessments on 12 households that were severely impacted in the flood in collaboration with the Maldives Red Crescent. NDMA provided emergency accommodation and food for a one-day period for 8 of these households, accommodating a total of 32 individuals. The authority confirmed that all affected individuals have since returned to their homes. NDMA further said it conducted damage assessments on 30 households in Male. Most damages were mostly to damage to possessions and damage of building ceilings. Some households in the atolls also suffered damages in the rain. As a result of the rains on 17 December, 3 islands reported flooding, including Hembadu and Kendikorodu in Noon Atoll and Kurendu in Lavian Atoll. Of these islands, reports of flood damage were received from Hembadu, where approximately 80 households were impacted. However, the damage was not severe enough to require relocation of the residents. Following damage assessments, NDMA has received the relevant forms from 27 households and form processing is currently underway. Forms of households assessed in Male City are also being processed.
Ibrahim Nasreen has been appointed as the new Managing Director of Public Service Media (PSM), along with Fatmat Namza as its new chairman. The Managing Director position was vacated after Mohammad Said stepped down on December 17, citing health reasons in his resignation. Before his appointment as the Managing Director, Nasreen had served as the Sales and Marketing Director of PSM with extensive experience in business management, innovation and marketing. During his 9-year distinguished career at PSM, Nasreen had filled various senior positions at PSM. Amnat Namza, who was appointed as the chairman of PSM, also has extensive experience in the media sector. Namza was serving as the Deputy Minister of Cities and Local Government and Public Works before her appointment as PSM's new chairman. The Elections Commission of Maldives (ECM) states that it is likely that the Local Council and Women's Development Committee WDC by-elections slated for February next year will be the final by-election for the current term. According to amendments to the Decentralization Act and Local Council Elections Act, which were introduced due to high costs of by-elections for and the logistical challenges and citizens, by-elections for WDCs are held once a year and twice a year for local councils. While the first by-election under the new amendments have been announced, the election will include 5 local council seats and 28 WDC vacancies. The by-election is scheduled to be held on 8 February 2025. According to the new amendments, if less than 1 year remains in the term when a vacancy opens up on a local council or WDC, it is not mandatory to re-elect a member to fill the vacancy. In this case, a by-election is only required if the council or committee's quorum is affected due to the vacancy. The new amendment also prohibits elections during Ramadan, and an election may only be held 10 days after Ramadan ends. Therefore, if another election is to be held next year, it has to be scheduled for April or after. However, by then, the term of WDC members and local councils would fall below the 1-year threshold, making an additional by-election unnecessary unless due to quorum issues. While current term of local councils and WDCs expire in April 2026, these reasons make it possible that the 8th February election may indeed be the last by-election for the current term. Honda and Nissan have started talks towards a potential merger.
Honda and Nissan have started talks towards a potential merger, a historic pivot for Japan's auto industry that underlines the threat Chinese EV makers now pose to some of the world's best-known car makers. The integration would create the world's third largest auto group by vehicle sales after Toyota and Volkswagen. It would also give the two companies scale and a chance to share resources in the face of intense competition from Tesla and more nimble Chinese rivals such as BYD. The merger of the two storied Japanese brands, Honda is Japan's second largest automaker and Nissan's its number 3rd, would mark the biggest reshaping in the global auto industry since Fiat Chrysler Automobiles and PSA merged in 2021 to create Stellantis in a $52 billion deal. The company said that smaller Mitsubishi Motors, in which Nissan is top shareholder, was also considering joining. The chief executives of all three companies held a joint press conference in Tokyo. They said that the two companies would aim for combined sales of 30 trillion yen, about $191 billion, and operating profit of more than 3 trillion yen through the potential merger. Countries negotiating a global treaty to curb plastic pollution failed to reach agreement on Monday. They aim to wrap up talks around June 2025 and then set up a holding company by August 2026, at which time both companies' share would be delisted. Honda has a market capitalization of more than $40 billion, while Nissan is valued at about $10 billion. Honda will appoint the majority of the holding company's board. Combining with Mitsubishi Motors would take the Japanese group's global sales to more than 8 million cars. The current number 3rd group is South Korea's Hyundai and Kia.
Members of Donald Trump's presidential transition team are laying the groundwork for the United States to withdraw from the World Health Organization, WHO.
According to a health law expert familiar with the discussions, members of Donald Trump's presidential transition team are working for the United States to withdraw from the WHO on the first day of his second term. The Financial Times was first to report on the plans, citing two experts. The second expert, a former White House COVID-19 response coordinator, Ashish Jha, was not immediately available for comment. The Trump transition team did not immediately respond to Reuters' request for comment. The plan, which aligns with Trump's long-standing criticism of the UN Health Agency, would mark a dramatic shift in the U.S. global health policy and further isolate Washington from international efforts to battle pandemics. Trump has nominated several critics of the organization to top public health positions, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a vaccine skeptic who is up for the post of Secretary of Health and Human Services, which oversees all major U.S. health agencies including the CDC and FDA. Trump initiated the year-long withdrawal process from the WHO in 2020, but 6 months later, his successor, President Joe Biden, reversed the decision. Trump has argued that the agency failed to hold China accountable for the early spread of COVID-19. He has repeatedly called the WHO a puppet of Beijing and vowed to redirect US contributions to domestic health initiatives. A WHO spokesperson declined to directly comment but referred Reuters to comments by WHO Director General at a press briefing on December 10th, in which he was asked whether he was concerned that the Trump administration would withdraw from the organization. He said that at the time that the WHO needed to give the US time and space for the transition.
We're ready to work together. And the relationship between WHO and the US, the United States, has been actually a good model of partnership and has been partnering for many years. And we believe that that will be the case. And I believe, the US leaders understand that the US cannot be safe unless the rest of the world is safe.
Furthermore, the WHO Director General voiced confidence that the states could finalize a pandemic agreement by May 2025. Critics warned that a US withdrawal could undermine global disease surveillance and emergency response systems.
FIFA has adopted an interim framework concerning the regulations on the status and transfer of players.
FIFA announced the adoption of an interim framework concerning the regulations of the status and transfer of players following a Court of Justice of the European Union ruling. In October, the EU's top court said that some of FIFA's rules on player transfers went against European Union laws and free movement principles in a case linked to former Chelsea, Arsenal, Real Madrid and PSG player Lassana Diarra. The interim regulatory framework affects the calculation of compensation payable if there is a breach of contract and the burden of proof in relation to both compensation payable and an inducement to breach a contract. Under the framework, compensation will be calculated in an objective and transparent way at a level required to restore the party that suffered damage due to a breach of contract to the position in which they would have been had the breach not occurred. FIFA requested talks with all key stakeholders before making their interim amendments, which take effect on January 1, 2025, but Players Union FIFPro declined to take part in the discussions. FIFPro issued a statement criticizing FIFA's decision and said it was unable to reach a consensus under which it could negotiate amendments to the regulations to reflect the ruling. In 2014, Diarra left Lokomotiv Moscow 1 year into a 4-year deal, and the Russian club took the matter to FIFA's dispute resolution chamber, arguing that he had breached the rules when his contract was terminated after the player decided to leave without just cause following a pay cut. Diarra received an offer to join a Belgium club, but the club backed out after FIFA refused to sign the international transfer certificate, preventing the midfielder being registered with the Belgian Federation. According to the CJEU ruling, it is unlawful to refuse to sign the ITC. In 2015, FIFA ordered Diarra to pay €10 million, about $11 million, in damages to Lokomotiv, prompting the player to sue soccer's world governing body and the Belgian FA for damages before a local court.
The Dutch discover a rare 500-year-old wooden shoe in a cesspit in the city of Alkmaar. The Dutch are known worldwide for their wooden shoes, but the recent rare discovery of a 500-year-old one in the city of Alkmaar has shown just how widespread their use once was. Archaeologists reveals that the wooden shoe was found in a cesspit in an urban surrounding, making it very special.
And it was found in a cesspit in an urban surrounding. So this is very special, because with wooden shoes we always think of farmers using wooden shoes during their work, but actually this was found in an urban context, so in a city of Alkmaar, and they were using this kind of footwear for daily use. So this is very, very nice, and it's so very well preserved.
The wooden shoe was found in a cesspit that was discovered last month during construction of an underground waste container in Alkmaar, around 30 kilometers northwest of Amsterdam. Archaeologists say that the cesspit was used as a toilet and for waste disposal from around 1450 to 1558. The clock, a European size 36, is estimated to have been made at the end of 15th or early in the 16th century.
This is not a working shoe. This is really a shoe for a woman or a man, because this size of shoe can be used by men with small feet or by women with large feet. It's actually a normal size in the medieval times.
This shoe is the first ever found in the Netherlands made of birch wood and one of only 44 wooden shoes ever found during excavations in the Netherlands and Belgium. That's it for now. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant day ahead. Bye-bye.
ರಾಜ್ಯಗ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಆಮು ಬಲಿತಕಕ್ಕೆ ಕೊಬ ಬಲಿ ಜೈಫೋರಿಕ